Chapter 18, Maintenance Air Compressor. Maintenance air compressor. Generally, in addition to the periodic suspension made with the component for the use of the required periodic surface to provide maximum output of the performance surface may consist with the pre-operation, post-operation procedure to perform with the operating of the maintenance personnel. Primary function of the preventive maintenance is to prevent failure. Consequently, needed for the repair of the preventive maintenance is the easiest and least expensive type of the maintenance, maintaining your unit and keeping it clean at all times to facilitate the serving. Correct engine speed is critical for the operation of the machine. Check the idle and full load of RPM every 3 months for the adjusting the accordance with the speed of the pressure adjusting instruction in the manual, including the decal on the machine current speeds, but they are on the general data detail. Scheduled maintenance. The maintenance schedule is based on the normal operation. Even though this page can be reproduced, the use of the technically serve the personnel with the unusual environmental operations and conditions exist. This schedule should be adjusted accordingly. Compress the oil level. The oil level must be consistent with the unit. The running at a full load should be checked at the time the optimum operation level is midway on the site tube, at the side of the receiver tank, at the side of the decal, beside the side of the tube. And if the oil level is not in the OK range, make an appropriate corrections. Add or drain the total filled site tube in which the level is not visible, indicating that overall full condition requires the oil to be drained. Compressor oil. The machinery factory filled with the Ingross Rand Pro Tech R compressed fluid or Ingross Rand XHP 505 XHP 900 models. The compressor oil must be replaced every 5,000 hours of the operation for 6 months, whichever comes first with the one. For the model HP 600 and P1600, refer the fluids lubricating charge with the ambient temperature range with the specification lubrication section from this manual. The compressor oil must be replaced with every 500 hours of operating 6 months. Whichever comes first for the model of the P100 and P600, the compressor oil must be replaced with every 1,000 hours of operation for the 6 months. Whichever comes first for the model HP 600 or P1600, refer the fluids lubrication charge with the ambient temperature range with the specification for the lubrication. The air cleaner at model XP330 SCU with equipped with the air cleaner with the surface indicator mounted on the main instrument control panel. Inspect daily air cleaner with the surface indicator. Never see about restriction in the air cleaner. Always know the condition of your air cleaner with the assistance of the surface indicator. If not working properly, missing, to replace it. Maximum compressor engine protection against the ravage of the duties of the possible over only if the air cleaner is serviced at the regular intervals wherever the surface indicator shows red. Visual inspection position of the flag in the air cleaner with the restriction indicator. Normally the flag and the surface indicator show with green, indicating the filter element is still serviceable. The flag shows red when the unit is operating at full speed or stopped. It is an indication the proper servicing of the filter is as elements is necessary. Also, weakly squeeze the rubber valve of the pre-cleaner of the dirt dump each of the cleaner housing to ensure that they are not clogged. Note that the holes and cracks downstream of the air cleaner hosing will cause the restriction indicators to be ineffective. Air filter's restriction sensors will automatically reset after the main power switch is flipped off. Ensure the air cleaners on all units proceed as follows. Loosen the outer wing nut, remove the outer element, inspect the red white window with a special inner with the wing nut with the film, find a small dot, and if the dot is not visible, remove the counter pin and special wing nut with the inner safety element, and inspect the air cleaner with the housing of any condition that might cause the leak of the corrected necessary. 3. Wipe the inside of the air cleaner housing with any of the clean damp cloth to remove any of the dirt accumulation, especially with the air with the element seals against the housing. Inspect the element with the placing of the bright light inside, rotating slowly. Any hole with the tears around the paper found in the paper, discard the element. If no ruptures are found, the element can be cleaned by one of the following procedures. The new air filter element is to be used to check the closely shipping damage. To reset the single indicator of the special wing nut, apply with the suction of the red window. Install clean of the new elements in the reverse order to the above. Order to the above, for tightening the wing nuts firmly and replace the cotter pins. Inspect to ensure the end of the cap seal is tightened 360 degrees around the air cleaner body. Alright, in the event of the element, if it is continuing the dry element, oil, grease, dirt deposit, new element is not visibly available. The cleaning it can be accomplished by washing using the air cleaner to element the manufacturer recommendation. No, prevent the damage of the element never exceed the maximum air pressure for 100 psi. Notice if it is highly recommended that the new replacement elements be installed with the unit immediately in order that the unit may be returned to service in the shortest possible time in the manner that the elements just removed from the cleaning can be washed and stored as the future replacement of elements. In addition, for the air cleaner system, the hosing of the piping should be inspected every month for any of the leakage path and inlet obstruction. Make sure that the air cleaner mounting bolts of the clamps are tight. Check the air cleaner with the housing of the dents and damages which could cause leak if it leads to a leak. Inspection of the air transfer tubing from the air cleaner to the compressor engine for the holes. Make sure that all the clamps and the flanges are tight. Gauges. The instrument of the gauges are essentially safely with the product maximum productivity longest serving life of the machine. Inspect the gauges and testing and the diagnostic lamps prior to the startup. During the operation, observe the gauges, any lamps for proper functioning. Refer to the operation control for the normal reading. Or fuel tank. The unit is supplied with the diesel fuel from the external customer supplied fuel tank. The use of the clean fuel for the fuel tank is virtually important. Every precaution should be taken to ensure that only clean fuel is either poured or pumped into the tank when the filling of the fuel tank is on this unit by methods other than pump of the hose with the use of the clean non-metallic funnel. Every 6 months, the drain the plug should be removed from the tank with any sediment with accumulated condensate may be drained. Replacing the drain plugs, make sure they are tightened securely. Or your battery. Electrical power to the unit is supplied from the external mounted batteries. Keep the battery posted with the cable to the connection with clean with the tightly located with the grease. Always electrical light level in each of the cells should cover over the top of these plates. The necessary top of the wind of the clean distilled water. Automatic shutdown system. The high discharge and air temperature switches will require with approximately 248 degrees Fahrenheit to accumulate. Engine cooling temperature switch will require approximately 220 degrees Fahrenheit to accumulate. Replace any defective switch before continuing to operate the unit. A low oil pressure switch may be tested by removing it and connecting it to the source with the controlled pressure with monitoring an outbound meter connected to the switch terminals. As pressure is applied slowly, the controlled source the switch should close to 12 psi and show the continuity of through the contacts. As the pressure is slowly decreased to 8 psi, the contact should open and the outmeter should show lack of the continuity infinite on through the contacts, replacing the defective switch before the continuing of the operating of the unit. Or your compressor oil coolers. The compressor lubricating oil is cooled by means of the fin of the tube type of the oil cooler located on the side of the radiator. Lubricating the cooling oil shows internally through the core section of the cold with the air stream of the cooling fan flowing in the ballot pass from the core section with the grease and oil dirt accumulated with the exterior surface of the oil over the oil cooler efficiently and paired with each month is a recommendation that the oil cooler is being cleaned, directing compressed air from the room that contains non-flammable safety solvent through the core of the oil cooler. This should remove the accumulation of the grease, oil, dirt from the exterior surface of the oil cooler core so that the entire cooling air can be transmitted to heat of the lubricating oil into the airstream. In the event of foreign deposits such as sludge or lacquer accumulate in the oil cooler to the extent that the cooling efficiency is impaired, the resulting of the high discharge of the air temperature is likely to occur, cause shutting down of the unit. To correct this situation, will be necessary to clean the using cleaning compound in accordance with the manufacturer recommendation. Use only dependable cleaning compound. This is prime importance because the different cleaners are varying concentration, chemical composition. After completing the cleaning procedure for the oil cooler, the oil cooler must be flushed before returning to service. Or your radiator. Warning, do not move the cap of the hot engine radiator. The sudden release of the pressure from the heat cooling system can result in the loss of the coolant, possibly severe personal injury. Engine cooling system is filled with the factory with a 50-50 mixture of the water, ethanol, glycol. Permanent type of the antifreeze contains the rust inhibitors provided with the protection of negative 35 degrees or negative 37 degrees Celsius. Or the use of such mixture is recommended for both the summer and winter operation. When using the water alone, be sure to add the reputable brand of the rust inhibitor to prevent the internal corrosion. Recommended test for the freezing protection with the coolant every 6 months prior to the freezing temperature. Replace the fresh mixture every 12 months after the drainage system is located at the bottom of the radiator. Taking an alternate method would be to disconnect the bottom radiator hose. Each month, inspection radiator exterior for the obstruction, dirt bugs, etc. Presence of the below water compressed air contained with the non-flammable solvent between the fins in the direction opposite of the normal airflow. Should the radiator be clogged with internally with standard automotive practices should be followed. Alright, hoses. Each month is recommended that all the intake hoses from the air cleaner to the engine cooling system hoses and all the flexible hoses used for the air and oil fuel be inspected. To ensure the freedom of the air leaks with all the rubber hose joints and screw type hose clamps must be of absolute type of regular inspection of these connections for the wear deterioration is definite. It must be regulator servicing with the air cleaner is not proved futile. Premature wear of both the engine with the compromise of the assured whether the destillated air is permitted to enter the engine combustion chamber or the compressor intake practically unfiltered. Flexible hose used with the fuel oil air lines on these units are primarily used with the ability to accommodate relatively movement between the components. It is extremely important that they periodically inspected for the wear and deterioration. Clamps are used to prevent the hose cover the vibration for the vibration. Abrasions may occur when two hose line crosses when the hose line rubs against the fixed point, therefore necessary that all the clamps will be replaced if missing. Also, it is important the operator does not use the hoses convenient handholds or steps. Such use can cause the early cover wear of the hose failure. Alright, note, piping systems operating with less than 150 psi may be used. Special nylon tubing and associated fittings are also special plushing in design, and some features are also fouls. Pulling out the tube will cause the inner sleeve. The withdrawal of the compressor thus the tightening of the condition of the tubing can be withdrawn only while holding the sleeve against the fitting of the tubing can be removed. Placed numerous times without losing the sealing ability to install the nylon tubing. Make a mark with the tape of the grease pencil with approximately 7/8 of an inch for the end of the tubing. Insert the tubing into the sleeve. Push into the pass with the first resistance to the bottom. Mark should approximately be 1/16 from the sleeve. The 1/3 of an inch for the outer diameter tubing. 1/8 of an inch from the quarter inch for the out diameter tubing will ensure that the tubing is fully engaged in the sealing mechanism. Compressing oil filters. Compression, lubrication, cooling oil system includes the dual spin on the away tap of the oil filters equipped with the internal bypass valve with a clean and new filter element. All the oil flows through the fuel element area from the outside inside. Each of the element becomes contaminated with the dirt and pressure differential created with the filter housing between the oil inlet and outlet ports. Also, the differential approach of 25 psi with the bypass valve that starts to open and permitting small quantity of the oil. Bypass the filter as contaminates continue with the build-up of the more and more of the oil passes the filter media itself. The bypass does not provide any filtration, but does an approximate maximum flow of the compressor, lubricating with the cooling oil to preclude any possible damage from the loss of oil. Although also the design of the filter prevents any of the washing off of any dirt during the oil bypassing. The oil filter must be replaced every 500 hours of the operation. On the new overhauled unit, replace the element after 50 to 150 hours operation. Thereafter, service the oil filter every 500 hours. To service the oil filters, it will be necessary to shut down the unit wipe off external dirt and oil from the exterior filter with minimize any of the contamination entering the lubrication system. Proceed as follows. Warning, high pressure air can cause a severe injury of the depth of hot oil and flying parts. Always receive the pressure before removing the caps, plugs, and cover the other parts of the pressurized air system. Open service air valve to ensure the system is relieved of all air pressure. Close the valve. Turn the spinning on the filter element counterclockwise. Remove the filter housing. Inspect the filter element and then discard. No, if there is any indication of the formation, varnish the shellac liquid lacquer of the oil filter elements for the warning of the compressed lubrication when the oil has the improper characteristics should be immediately changed. Inspect the oil filter head to be in gasket was removed the oil filter element, clean the gasket, seal air of the oil filter head. Install a new oil filter element when old gasket remains in the oil filter head, which causes the oil can cause property damage. 4. Lubricate the new filter gasket with the same oil being used in the machine. Install the new filter turning element clockwise until the gasket makes initial contact. Tighten an additional 1/2 to 3/4 of a turn. Start the unit. Allow it to build up the rate of the pressure. Check the leaks before placing the unit back in service. Our fasteners. Visually check the entire of the regard to the bolts and nuts of the screwing being properly secured. Spot check the assemble the cap screws, nuts, and proper torque. If any are found loose, more thorough inspection must be made to correct the active. If the compressor oil may refer to the maintenance schedule. Receiver separator system. The warning: high pressure air can cause the severe injury. Depth of the hot oil with the flying parts. So always relieve pressure before removing the caps and plugs. Cover the other parts for pressurized air system. Open surfaces with the valve at the end of the machine. Ensure the pressure is relieved on both the discharge air pressure gauge reading 0 and down air discharging the disturbance valve. With the draining oil, remove the replace making the tight and plug at the bottom of the separator tank. When adding oil, remove the split, replace the making tight with the plug on the side of the separator tank. If the compressed lubricating oil cooling system separated the oil with the compressed air tanks place the received separator tank and as the compressed air enters the tank and the change of the viscosity direction of the dropout must emit the oil from the air. Additional separation takes place in the oil with the separator element located at the top of the tank, and any oil accumulation of the separator element is continuous drained off the mains of the scavenge tube and returns the accumulated oil to the system. Or scavenge line. Warning: the high pressure air can cause severe injury and death of the hot oil flying parts. Always relieve the pressure before removing the caps and plugs covering the other parts of the pressurized air system. The scavenging line originates with the receiver separator tank covered and terminates at compressor air end through the an orifice of 1.6 millimeters. Once a year, every 2,000 hours of operation, whichever comes first, remove this line and orifice through thoroughly clean and then reassemble. Notice: excessive oil carryover the might be caused by oil log. Separator element. Do not replace the element with as first performing the following maintenance procedures. Check the oil level maintained indicated earlier in this section. Thoroughly clean scavenge line, any orifice check valve. Ensure the minimum pressure valve is equipped with proper seating and run the unit rated operating pressure within 30 to 40 minutes and permit elements to clear itself. Our cooling fan drive. The heat exchange of the cooling fan is driven by the multiple V-belt arrangements from the engine. The inspection cooling fan belts between the weekly and 500-hour intervals. The V-belt should be maintained at the proper tension of the fan belts that are too tight and pose with undue loads on the fan shafting bearings and shorten the life of the belts. Fan belts that are too loose allow slippage and lower than the fan speed and cause excessive belt wear and can lead to overheating of the cooling system. Your oil separator element. The life of the oil separator element is dependent upon the operating of the environment of the suit, of the dust, etc. should be replaced every 12 months or 2,000 hours. To replace the element, proceed as follows. Should the tank pressure is zero, disconnect the hose with the scavenge tube. Remove the scavenge tube with the tank cover. Disconnect the surface of the line from the cover. Remove the 16 cover mounting screws. Remove the cover element inner shell. Remove the anti-gasket material left out of the cover of the tank. Install the new gasket inner shell with the new element. Place a straight edge across the top of the element. Measure the bottom of the straight edge to the bottom of the element. Place the scavenge tube with the cover to seal off the tank. Measure the bottom of the cover to the end of the scavenge tube. Measure those should be from 1/8 to 1/4 inch less than the element. Measure if it is not cut to size. Move the scavenge tube, reposition the cover to use the care not to damage the gasket, replace the cover mounting screws, tighten the crisscross pattern of 100 pounds-foot torque, reconnect the surface line, replace the scavenge tube, and reconnect the hose, clear surface valve, to start the unit, look over the leaks, replacing the element with the scavenge lines, orifice filter with the check valve should be thoroughly cleaned with the oil change. Do not remove the staples from the element gas connections. Alright, figure 1, number 1 element shows the straight edge element and the separator tanks. Figure number 2 test tube measurement tank top scavenge tubes. Cut line necessary should be 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 shorter than the element measure. Exterior finish care. The unit was painted with a heated curve with the factory with a high quality thermoset polyester powder coating. The following of the care must be ensured the longest possible life from its finish. If necessary to remove the dust or pollen etc. from the housing of the wash with the water with the soap with the dishwashing liquid detergent. Do not scrub with a rough cloth or pad etc. If the grease removal is needed with the fast evaporating alcohol chlorinated solvent, it can be used. Note that this may cause some of the dueling of the paint to finish. If the paint has been faded or chalked with using the commercial grade or non-abrasive car wax, but may partially restore the color and gloss. Field repair texture paint. The sheet metal should be washed and cleaned with the foreign material thoroughly dried. To clean the wound with all the grease and wax for the area to be painted, use the DuPont 3900S cleaner prior to sanding. Use the 320 grit sandpaper to repair any scratch of the defect necessary. Scuff the entire area painted with red Scotch Brite pad. Wipe the area clean without using the DuPont 39S and blow the tank of the area to be filled. Apply the smooth coat with the DuPont 1854S with the tough coat primer until all bare of the metal area is allowed to dry. I'll apply with the 2 medium with the wet coat with the DuPont 222S adhesion promoter over the entire area to be tainted within 5-minute flash between the coats. Now to apply the texture coat with the use of the DuPont 1854S tough coat primer. The proper technique to use is spray with the tough coat primer. Use the pressure pot with the use of about 2 to 5 pounds of the air pressure. This will allow the primer to splatter, causing the textured look. Note: you must be careful not to put this much primer at one time. This will affect the amount of the texture that will allow you trying to achieve. Allow the texture coat to flash for 20 minutes until the dry to touch. To apply any DuPont top coat finishes such as the Emerald or the Centuria according with the label instructions. Note: to re-top coat the texture surfaces when sheet metal repairs are not necessary. Follow steps 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10. Alright, 6. Caution. Any authorized modification failure to maintain the equipment may be making it unsafe without out of factory warranty and performing more than visual inspection, disconnecting battery cables, open manual blowdown valve, use extreme care to avoid contacting hot surface, engine, exhaust manifold, the piping, the air receiver, the air discharge piping, etc. Never operate the machine with any guards removed. Engine metric hardware reviewed the design assembly of the unit, consult with the parts for the manual with the clarification for the uses. Notice: disregard any maintenance pertaining to the components not provided on your machine. Alright, air compressor lubrication.